The night air carried a quiet chill, brushing against Olivia Marcus's skin as she stepped onto the balcony of the Moretti estate. The moonlight painted her silhouette in silver, but there was no fear in her posture. Only stillness, strength, and the steady rise and fall of breath restrained by discipline. She had narrowly escaped death that evening. A car chase, shattering glass, bullets slicing through the air behind her. Any other woman might have collapsed into trembling, but Olivia had simply inhaled, exhaled, and walked toward the balcony like she was meeting the night halfway. Inside the room, Alvaro Moretti watched her. Not as the feared billionaire Mafia heir he was known to be, but as a man terrified of losing the woman fate had placed beside him. His pulse throbbed hot in his throat. He had seen the bullet marks on her car. He had held her shaking driver's arm. He had replayed the attack footage over and over, until the truth struck like lightning. His own stepbrother wanted his wife dead. Olivia rested her palms on the cool railing. She didn't turn as she spoke. "He tried to kill me, Alvaro." Her voice was quiet, steady, almost too calm for someone who had just looked death in the eyes. Alvaro stepped closer, each footfall heavy with anguish. "You could have died," he murmured, words he almost couldn't speak. "But I didn't." She lifted her chin, the moon catching the steel in her eyes. "And I won't live in fear. Not for him, not for anyone." Alvaro exhaled shakily, the weight of his emotions pressing against his chest. She was brave, braver than anyone he had ever known. And yet, that bravery terrified him more than bullets ever could. He moved behind her slowly, not touching, not demanding, simply present. "You don't have to act strong for me," he whispered. Olivia finally turned, her gaze locking onto his. "I'm not acting." Their eyes held, long, intense, unbroken. There was something there, something neither of them had dared to acknowledge. Not yet. A warmth pulsed behind her ribs, a pull deeper than fear, deeper than duty, something she hadn't expected to feel for the man she once kept at arm's length. Tonight, the danger had revealed what she had been fighting for weeks. She cared for him, more than she should, more than she ever intended. But before she could speak, Alvaro stepped closer, his voice low and heavy with truth. "I will protect you, Olivia, with everything I am." The promise in his voice didn't just sound like protection, it sounded like devotion. It sounded like love, even if neither dared call it that yet. And with that, the screen of Olivia's emotions finally cracked, not out of fear, but out of the startling realization that she no longer wanted distance. Not from him, not anymore. Before we begin, I just want to speak life into everyone listening today. Whatever danger, fear, or uncertainty you're facing, may courage find you the way it found Olivia tonight. May protection surround you, may peace go before you, and may blessings find your home in ways that surprise you. If you're new here, welcome to Mr. Donovan Stories. If you're returning, welcome back. Your presence truly means the world. Go ahead and subscribe, turn on your notifications, and like this video. This story will change your day, maybe even your life. The Moretti estate stood like a fortress carved into the hillside, tall, imposing, lined with ancient stone and towering cypress. Its presence alone carried the weight of a legacy built on power, fear, and influence. It was the heart of the Moretti Empire, and the setting for a union that would alter the course of two families. Olivia Marcus arrived on the morning of her arranged marriage with a calm so profound it silenced every guard she passed. Her black limousine rolled past steel gates, security lines, and the men sworn to defend the empire she was about to marry into. She stepped out of the car with grace, her dark hair falling in soft waves, her chin lifted high. She wore confidence like armor, poised, unwavering, sharp. But beneath the composure lived a simple truth. She did not love Alvaro Moretti. Not yet. Not ever, she had told herself. This was duty. This was loyalty. This was the price of peace. The moment Olivia entered the grand hall, Alvaro saw her. He had been standing beside his father, listening to final security updates, but the sight of her made the world pause. She was beautiful. Yes, But that wasn't what drew his attention. It was the fire in her eyes. Quiet fire, controlled fire, a strength born from discipline, not arrogance. Alvaro Moretti, with his sculpted jaw and cold stare, was a man built from shadows. He moved like someone who had survived battles most men wouldn't dare face. And yet, when he saw Olivia, something softened in him. She noticed. Still, she did not smile, nor did she bow her head. She simply stood tall beside him. Their fathers shook hands. The priests stepped forward. The vows began. It was an unromantic ceremony, clinical in its importance. An alliance, a truce, a historical moment. Cameras were not allowed. Weapons were hidden behind suits. Every man in the room watched for weakness, loyalty, betrayal. When it was time for rings, Alvaro slid the band onto her fingers slowly. His touch gentle, unexpectedly gentle for a man known for violence. Olivia's fingers stiffened for a second, then relaxed, not because she felt affection, but because she respected the weight of the moment. Two empires were becoming one. After the ceremony, the mansion became a blur of official signatures and private goodbyes. Late into the evening, the final witnesses left, and the newlyweds were escorted to the West Wing. Inside their suite, the silence was heavy. Alvaro cleared his throat first. "I know this wasn't your choice," he said quietly, "but I want you to feel safe here, and I want you to know I will not force anything on you." Olivia studied him, not with fear, not with resentment, but with curiosity. "Peace is built on cooperation," she replied. "I intend to honor this marriage, but I hope you know I will not be silent or docile simply because I am now your wife." A corner of his mouth lifted, barely. "I wouldn't have wanted that," he said, and in that moment, something shifted between them. Not affection, not romance, but respect, a foundation. Over the next several days, Olivia became acquainted with life inside the Moretti Empire. The mansion buzzed with staff, guards, cooks, strategists, and quiet observers who reported directly to the family. Olivia's poise stunned them. She rose early. She trained in the gym with guards twice her size. She inspected her new environment with the eyes of someone raised in war. And she treated every staff member with unexpected kindness. But she kept emotional distance from her husband. During dinner, she sat straight-backed, cutting her food with precision, answering Alvaro's questions politely but without warmth. Alvaro didn't push her. He didn't pout or demand affection. Instead, he admired her boundaries, even when those boundaries frustrated him. On the fifth night, he finally asked, "Do you regret this marriage?" Olivia paused mid-bite. She lifted her gaze. "Regret? No. A soft breath. But it doesn't feel like home yet." He nodded once, accepting that. Something in her expression flickered. Something Alvaro didn't understand yet. She wanted safety. She wanted peace. She wanted purpose. But love? That was locked behind walls she had built long before meeting him. And yet, something in her eyes told him those walls might not be indestructible, not forever. Olivia's presence in the Moretti mansion quickly became a quiet storm, felt, respected, admired from a distance. Staff members often whispered simple observations about her. "She greets everyone by name. She thanks even the lowest guard. She stands with the posture of someone born to lead." But Alvaro noticed something deeper. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't trying to adjust. She wasn't trying to fit into the Moretti world. She was simply being herself, and somehow that authenticity unsettled him more than any rival he had ever faced. One evening, after several days of formal silence between them, Olivia sat on the edge of their shared bed, with her hair cascading down her back. Alvaro stood near the door, unsure whether to leave or speak. "You don't have to tiptoe around me," Olivia said without turning. Her voice was gentle but firm. "I'm not tiptoeing," he replied. "You don't speak unless spoken to." Alvaro hesitated. "Because I don't want to push you." Olivia finally turned her head to meet his gaze. Her eyes, deep, calm, unreadable, locked onto his. Alvaro, I don't break. I bend, I adjust, I strategize, but I don't break. Something warm flickered in his chest at that. She stood then, walked past him intentionally close, letting her shoulder graze his arm ever so faintly. It wasn't affection, but it wasn't distance either. It was a beginning. As days passed, their awareness of each other deepened. Olivia noticed how Alvaro always watched her from the corner of his eye, ensuring she was safe. Alvaro noticed how Olivia's voice softened around him compared to others. She began asking him intentional questions about his day, his responsibilities, and his decisions. He began waiting for her reactions, valuing her perspective more than he expected. Still, Olivia's heart was restrained. She respected Alvaro. She appreciated him. But love? No, not yet. Love was a luxury she didn't believe she could risk. But everything began to change the day Sorin Moretti returned. The Moretti mansion had seen its fair share of storms, power struggles, betrayals, alliances built and broken. But the storm that arrived on the afternoon of Sorin Moretti's return was different. Guards stiffened. Staff members exchanged glances. Even the air grew heavier, as though bracing itself. Olivia, on her way to the strategy room, sensed the shift before anyone spoke. Her instincts, honed by years in a Mafia household, flared the moment she heard the footsteps echoing down the central hall. Footsteps that were confident. Footsteps that were entitled. Footsteps that didn't belong to Alvaro. She turned her head slowly. Sorin Moretti entered with a smirk carved lazily across his face. Tall, well-dressed, polished, but his eyes were the kind that searched for weakness. His presence wasn't loud, but it was dangerous. Alvaro appeared from the opposite hall, his expression cooling into stone at the sight of him. Sorin. Alvaro's voice carried nothing but warning. Sorin spread his arms in mock warmth. Brother. Olivia stepped subtly behind Alvaro, not in fear, but in clear recognition that this was his confrontation to manage. Sorin's eyes drifted to her, sweeping over her with unsettling curiosity. So, he said, circling her slowly like a predator evaluating prey, this is the woman who finally ended a decade of blood between our families. Olivia didn't flinch. Her gaze cut like steel. Peace deserves respect, she said firmly. Sorin's smirk widened. Or it deserves to be questioned. Alvaro stepped in front of her immediately. Protective, silent, certain. Don't, Alvaro warned. Sorin chuckled as though amused. But Olivia saw through him. She saw the bitterness, the envy, the hunger for something he believed Alvaro had taken from him. Relax, Sorin said, brushing past them. I only came home to celebrate the marriage. But Olivia felt it. A darkness trailing behind him. A promise of chaos. In the days that followed, Sorin made his presence known. Not overtly, not violently, but strategically. He appeared at breakfast unannounced. He wandered into meetings he wasn't invited to. He questioned security operations, subtly undermining Alvaro's authority. And he watched Olivia too closely, as though measuring how much she mattered to her husband. Late one evening, after Sorin had left the dining room, Olivia spoke quietly. He's dangerous. Alvaro sighed. I know. You trust him? No. Olivia nodded. Then be careful. Men like Sorin don't strike without purpose. Alvaro's chest tightened, not because she was wrong, but because he realized she cared enough to warn him. He turned to her gently. I will be careful, but you must be too. Olivia's stare lingered on him for a moment longer than usual. Maybe it was the danger. Maybe it was his concern. Maybe it was the way he said, you must be too, with a softness she wasn't used to receiving. But something warm unfolded in her chest, something she couldn't ignore. Unknown to both Olivia and Alvaro, Sorin had already laid the first pieces of his plan. He wanted three things: control of the Moretti empire, his father's approval, chaos between the Moretti and Marcus families. A peaceful union meant stability. Stability meant Alvaro kept his power. And Alvaro keeping his power meant Sorin remained in the shadows of the empire. He wouldn't allow that. Soren began planting seeds, misinformation, whispered doubts, strategic rumors. He made subtle inquiries about Olivia's movements, her outings, her routines. He observed how Alvaro watched Olivia with growing affection. He noticed how Olivia softened, just barely, whenever Alvaro walked into a room. And he smiled because affection made weakness. Weakness made opportunity. One night, Olivia passed by Alvaro's office. He was reviewing maps and security routes, something he usually did silently. But this time, he looked exhausted, his shoulders heavy, his jaw clenched. She paused in the doorway. "Long day?" she asked softly. Alvaro looked up, surprised she initiated conversation. "Yes," he admitted. "But seeing you helps." Olivia's breath caught in her throat. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't playing a game. He meant it. And for the first time, she didn't feel the urge to retreat emotionally. Instead, she stepped closer and sat beside him. They reviewed the maps together, shoulder brushing shoulder. The heat of his presence wasn't overwhelming. It was grounding. Alvaro turned a page, and Olivia felt her heart shift again. Not fully, not completely, but undeniably. She might not love him yet, but she no longer pushed love away. Soren watched from the shadows near the staircase, eyes narrowed as he caught sight of Olivia and Alvaro together. They weren't holding hands. They weren't embracing. But their closeness, their comfort, their quiet growing intimacy, it infuriated him. He whispered to himself, "Enjoy this peace while you can, brother, because I will burn it to ashes." And, with that, he made his first move. The evening began beautifully. Olivia had just concluded a charity event she personally organized, one focused on supporting the families of victims caught in crossfire during Mafia conflicts. She believed deeply that power meant responsibility, and that even dark empires had a duty to protect the innocent. Guests admired her poise, her intelligence, her sincerity, and though she smiled through the evening, a quiet thought lingered in her mind. Alvaro would have been proud. She didn't know when she started caring about that. But she cared. Her driver, Mateo, pulled the car to the front of the venue as she stepped outside. The night sky blanketed the city in a calm darkness, and Olivia exhaled. Finally able to release the tension she held during the event, she opened her purse to check her phone. A message from Alvaro appeared. "On my way back. Keep me updated." A small smile tugged at her lips. She typed back, "Just leaving now." She slipped into the car, not noticing the black SUV parked several meters behind them. The Moretti estate was 20 minutes away. The roads were mostly empty, lined with dim street lamps and sleepy storefronts. Everything felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. A soft prickle raised the hairs on the back of Olivia's neck. "Mateo?" she said quietly. "Yes, ma'am." "Are we being followed?" Mateo checked the mirror discreetly. "One car has been behind us since we left, but..." The headlights brightened suddenly. Too bright, too fast. Olivia's instincts were immediate. "Go, now." Mateo sped forward. The SUV behind them accelerated. The chase began. The first gunshot shattered the back window. Mateo swore under his breath. Olivia ducked automatically, but her voice remained steady. "Don't panic. Take the service road behind the gardens. They'll expect you to stay on the main route." "Yes, ma'am." Another shot rang out. Glass exploded. Mateo jerked the wheel, trying to avoid a direct hit. The SUV rammed their back bumper. Olivia braced herself with one hand on the seat and the other gripping the handle. "Turn left," she commanded. "Right here, now." Mateo obeyed, skidding them onto a narrower road behind a line of dense hedges. The SUV followed, but struggled to turn at the same angle. Another series of bullets cracked against the rear metal of the car. Mateo's breathing became ragged. "Ma'am, if they keep shooting, we won't crash," she said firmly. "You're going to keep driving, eyes forward." Her voice was steady, cold, focused, the kind of voice belonging to someone who'd grown up within danger. The car jolted over gravel as they approached a side entrance of the Moretti estate. "Open the gates!" Matteo shouted into the radio. The guards responded instantly. The iron gates slid open, and Matteo shot through with precision. The moment they crossed the threshold, he slammed the brakes. The SUV stayed outside, watching, waiting, then slowly reversed and vanished into the darkness. Guards rushed forward. Doors flew open. Voices erupted. "Ma'am, are you hurt? Should we call the med team? What happened?" Olivia stepped out calmly. Even a shattered glass clung to her coat and hair. "I'm fine." It was then Alvaro arrived, his car screeching to a halt, the door flying open so violently the hinge groaned. The expression on his face stopped the world around him. His eyes took in the broken glass, the bullet holes, the shaken driver, and, finally, Olivia. His breath fractured. "Olivia." She lifted her chin. "I'm unharmed." He strode toward her, stopping only inches away. "You could have died." His voice was low, shaking with something he rarely allowed: fear. Olivia swallowed but remained steady. "I didn't." Alvaro's jaw tightened. His chest rose sharply as if he had sprinted miles to reach her. He cupped her face gently, checking her for injuries with trembling fingers. "You're safe," he breathed. "You're safe, thank God." Olivia's heart stuttered. Nobody had ever looked at her like that. Not with ownership, but with relief, with care, with something dangerously close to love. She didn't know what to do with that emotion, so she simply said, "It seems someone wanted to make your promise to protect me more difficult." Alvaro managed a soft, humorless laugh. "I'll kill whoever did this." But Olivia shook her head. "Don't react out of anger. React out of strategy." He paused. "You're remarkable," he whispered. She didn't respond. Her heart was beating too loudly. An hour later, Alvaro and Olivia sat in the surveillance room. Multiple screens displayed footage from around the estate. The security chief fast-forwarded through external cameras until he stopped sharply on one clip. A black SUV, parked, waiting. With a clear shot of the license plate, the chief zoomed in. The room fell silent. Alvaro froze. Olivia's breath hitched. It was unmistakable. The SUV belonged to Soren Moretti. Olivia felt a slow, cold wave wash down her spine. Alvaro's expression hardened into something lethal. Not rage, not shock, but a quiet, deadly resolve. The kind of resolve that signaled war. Alvaro didn't wait until morning. He stormed directly to Soren's wing of the mansion, Olivia following at a measured distance. She didn't hold him back. She didn't calm him. She simply wanted the truth spoken aloud. Soren was lounging on a leather sofa, swirling a glass of dark liquor as if expecting them. Alvaro didn't hesitate. "You sent men after her." Soren smirked lazily. "Her family humiliated ours for years. Why should she live while our father pretends peace is a solution?" Olivia clenched her jaw. This wasn't personal. This was calculated. Alvaro stepped closer. "You don't get to decide who lives." "Oh?" Soren lifted a brow. "But you do?" Alvaro's fist tightened at his side. "Touch her again, and—" "Or what?" Soren leaned back with relaxed arrogance. "You'll break the treaty? Declare war? Start the chaos I want?" Alvaro inhaled sharply. That was it. The motive, the entire scheme. Soren didn't want Olivia dead because he hated her. He wanted her dead because her death would reignite the decades-long feud between families, and in the chaos he could seize power. Soren chuckled softly. "You really are too emotional, brother. You're letting a woman weaken your leadership." Olivia stepped forward then, her voice calm and cutting. "I don't weaken kingdoms," she said. "I preserve them, but men like you destroy them for sport." Soren's smirk faltered. Alvaro glanced at her with fierce pride. This was the moment his admiration grew into something deeper. Later that night, the mansion fell silent, guards posted at every entrance. Olivia returned to her suite, exhaustion weighing on her bones. She sat on the edge of the bed, unbuttoning her coat, when she heard soft steps behind her. Alvaro leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, eyes trained on her with concern. "You should rest." "So should you," she replied gently. He didn't move. "Olivia, you scared me tonight." His voice cracked, just slightly. She turned to him, emotions stirring quietly in her chest. "I wasn't scared," she admitted. "I know." His eyes softened. "That's what terrifies me." There it was. The truth neither wanted to admit out loud. He felt something deeper for her. Something he couldn't suppress. Olivia looked away. She wasn't ready, not to name it, not to accept it, but she felt it too. Before either of them spoke again, a guard knocked on the door with a report. Olivia exhaled slowly. Alvaro closed his eyes for a brief moment as if gathering strength. "We'll talk later," he said. And though it wasn't spoken, each of them knew. Everything between them had changed. The mansion felt colder the next morning. Even with the sun rising gently over the hillside, warmth didn't reach the halls of the Moretti estate. Guards moved with tighter discipline. Strategists whispered in corners. Every servant felt the tension in the air, though most did not know the full truth. But Soren knew, and he reveled in it. He strolled through the dining hall early, dressed neatly, sipping a cup of black coffee, as though nothing had happened the night before. His expression was unjustifiably calm, almost satisfied. Alvaro found him exactly like that. Sitting, relaxed, smirking slightly. Olivia stood just a few steps behind Alvaro. Her posture was tall, composed, but her eyes, those calm steel-like eyes, burned with collected fury. Alvaro didn't bother with greetings. "Why?" he demanded. Soren took another sip of coffee. "Why what, brother? Why target Olivia?" Soren looked amused at the question. "You're acting as though it wasn't obvious." Olivia stepped forward, her voice steady. "Explain it to us." Soren's gaze drifted to her, and for the first time, his smirk faltered. Something about Olivia's poise, her calm command of the room, irritated him deeply. Women like her didn't bow to power. They didn't bend from intimidation. He hated that about her. He set the cup down with a soft clink. "Do you truly think Father chose Alvaro to lead because he is stronger?" His tone sharpened. "No, he chose him because of this marriage. Because of you." Silence settled. Olivia didn't blink. Soren continued, voice dripping spite. "Father believes Alvaro is more fit to rule because he can manage a peace treaty, because he can unite families instead of destroy them, because he can control his impulses." His lips twisted. How ironic, given how fast he loses control when someone aims at you. Alvaro's jaw tightened. Soren rose slowly, straightening his cuffs. A decade of war ended with a marriage. Everyone praises the new age of peace. But they forget that peace makes men soft, and softness allows empires to crumble. Olivia held his stare. "And chaos allows men like you to rise." Soren's eyes flashed. Exactly, there it was, the truth in its rawest form. He didn't want her dead out of vengeance. He wanted her dead because her absence would ignite war. And war would strip Alvaro of power. And in the ashes, Soren saw himself ascending. Olivia exhaled slowly. "Your greed is going to destroy you." Soren stepped closer, smirk returning. "And your presence will destroy him." Alvaro moved forward, fury threatening to fracture his restraint. But Olivia placed a gentle hand on his arm, stopping him. A small touch, barely there, but it grounded him like an anchor. She was learning his boundaries. He was learning her strength. Soren noticed the touch, and it enraged him deeper than any insult could. But before he could make another venomous remark, Alvaro spoke with cold finality. "Stay away from my wife." Soren's eyes narrowed. Or perhaps they finally sharpened to the threat Olivia posed, not as a weakness, but as Alvaro's source of strength. Later that day, Olivia found herself in the garden behind the mansion. She didn't go there to relax, she went to think. The greenery was vibrant, soft sunlight filtering through the leaves, but her mind was anything but calm. She stood at the center of the garden, fingers woven together, replaying Soren's words. A marriage that started as duty was becoming dangerous, not because she was weak, but because she mattered, and for the first time Olivia realized she did not want to be the cause of Alvaro's downfall. She did not want chaos touching him. She did not want harm anywhere near him. This wasn't political. It wasn't strategic. It was personal. She cared. Alvaro approached quietly, stopping a few steps behind her. "I knew you'd be here," he murmured. Olivia turned, finding him watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Worry? Admiration? Both? "You shouldn't have confronted him alone," she said. Alvaro lifted a brow. "You came with me. You know what I mean." He stepped closer, hands in his pockets. "You're hurt," he observed, not as a question. "No," she replied. "I'm thinking about—" Olivia hesitated before speaking. "About how this marriage was supposed to bring peace, but instead, I feel like I've put a target on your back." Alvaro's expression softened, gently, almost painfully. "You didn't put a target on my back." He paused. "Being heir to the Moretti Empire did that long before you walked into my life." Olivia looked away, but he stepped closer, voice lowering. "You brought something else instead." She swallowed. "What?" "Purpose." The word hit her like a silent flame. Slow, warm, unexpected. "Olivia," he continued, taking another step, "you're not the cause of danger. You're the reason I want to protect everything that matters." Her heart stuttered. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. He had never spoken to her like this. Not with formality, not with duty, but with sincerity, and for a split second, she forgot to breathe. Night fell quietly over the Moretti estate. The sky outside was clear, dotted with faint stars barely visible over the city lights. Alvaro had spent the evening reviewing security details, doubling patrols, repositioning guards, and discreetly interrogating contacts about Soren's movements. By the time he returned to the West Wing, exhaustion tugged at his shoulders. He expected Olivia to be asleep or reading. He didn't expect to find her standing on the balcony again, arms wrapped, around herself lightly, studying the moonlit gardens below. He paused in the doorway, watching her. She sensed him before he spoke. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked without turning. "No," he admitted. Olivia's fingers curled slightly over the railing. "Neither could I." Alvaro stepped onto the balcony beside her, but not too close. Just enough that his presence was undeniable. They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the soft rustle of leaves in the night breeze. Olivia broke it first. "I'm not used to feeling this exposed." Alvaro traced her profile with his eyes. "You mean vulnerable?" "No," she exhaled. "Important." The confession pierced something inside him. She turned her head slightly, meeting his gaze. "You risked everything confronting your brother. For me, I'd do it again," he said simply. Olivia looked down at her hands, not timidly, reflectively. "I wasn't sure how to feel after the attack," she murmured. "But when I saw you rushing toward me, like the world would end if anything happened, I realized something." Alvaro's breath stilled. "What?" Her voice softened into something truth-shaped and trembling. "I didn't want to lose you either." Alvaro's throat tightened. His chest rose. The world shrank to the space between them. Olivia turned fully toward him now, hair shifting with the breeze, eyes shimmering with the first hint of vulnerability she had ever shown him. It wasn't weakness. It was surrender, not to danger, not to fate, but to emotion she could no longer deny. Alvaro stepped closer, slowly, giving her time to retreat if she wanted to. She didn't. His hand lifted to her cheek, hovering for a moment, then settling gently against her skin. Olivia leaned into his touch, breath catching. Something undeniable passed between them. Something electric. Something inevitable. Something that had been quietly building since the day she entered his life. Her voice was a whisper. "Alvaro." His thumb grazed her cheekbone. "Yes. I was afraid to care for you," she admitted. "Because if I did, you'd become the one thing I couldn't lose." Alvaro inhaled deeply, fighting the storm raging through him. "But you're not going to lose me," he whispered back. "Not now. Not ever." A soft tremor went through Olivia's hands. Slowly, she lifted one hand to his chest, resting her palm over his heart. Alvaro closed his eyes. That single touch was more intimate than any kiss he had ever experienced, and when he opened his eyes again, Olivia was studying him quietly, her walls finally broken in a way that wasn't forced by danger, but by choice. She stepped closer, close enough that their breaths mingled, close enough that her heartbeat brushed his, close enough that the air felt heated, charged, alive. Her lips parted as she whispered, "I don't want distance anymore." Alvaro's breath shuddered. His hand slid to the back of her neck, fingers threading gently through her hair. "Then let me come closer," he whispered. Olivia didn't answer with words. She answered by rising onto her toes and letting her lips meet his. Their first kiss tasted like a promise neither of them planned to make, but both of them desperately needed. Olivia leaned into Alvaro fully, her fingers gripping the fabric of his shirt as though anchoring herself to him. Alvaro's hand slid from her cheek to the back of her waist, pulling her gently against him, not demanding, just inviting. The kiss deepened slowly, beautifully, the kind that grows only when two people have spent weeks resisting the pull between them. Olivia felt her breath tremble as his lips moved against hers. Not aggressively, not greedily, but carefully, almost reverently, as if he wanted to memorize the shape of her mouth. She broke the kiss for a moment, her eyes searching his. "Alvaro." Her voice shook slightly, not from fear, but from the intensity of the moment. He rested his forehead against hers. "You don't have to say anything," he whispered. "Not until you're ready." She closed her eyes, exhaling softly. "I am ready," she said. The breeze brushed past them, cool against the heat building between their bodies. Olivia slid her hands up his shoulders, feeling the strength beneath his clothes, the tension that had been coiled inside him for weeks finally unraveling. Alvaro kissed her again, slower this time, savoring her. Her lips parted instinctively, letting him deepen the kiss, and a soft sound escaped her, barely audible, but enough to make Alvaro's breath hitch. It was the first sound Olivia had ever made that wasn't measured, controlled, or guarded. It was real, unfiltered, wanting. They drifted backward into the suite, kissing between breaths, between whispered names, between soft, shaken exhalations neither could suppress. Alvaro stopped near the edge of the bed, pulling back only long enough to look at her. Really look at her. "You're sure?" he asked quietly. Olivia nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes." But it wasn't just consent. It was surrender to emotion, to trust, to the man she had once held at arm's length. Her fingers slid to the buttons of his shirt, hesitating, not out of fear, but out of the delicate weight of the moment. Alvaro covered her hands with his gently. "You don't have to rush." "I'm not rushing," she whispered. "I'm choosing." Those words sent a deep warmth through him. He kissed her again. A slow, lingering kiss that deepened as their bodies pressed together. The atmosphere thickened with soft heat. Warm breath. Gentle touches. The slow sliding of hands around waists. Fingertips grazing skin through thin fabric. Lips brushing along jawlines. Quiet gasps and soft sighs. The unspoken yearning finally allowed to breathe. Olivia's heart raced as Alvaro lifted her gently, her legs instinctively curling around his waist. He carried her toward the bed with care, not urgency. He lowered her onto the sheets with a tenderness that made her chest tighten. She reached up, touching his face with both hands. The vulnerability in her eyes said what she couldn't vocalize. "Don't break me. Don't disappear. Don't let this be a dream." Alvaro kissed the inside of her wrist, a gesture so soft it made her breath catch. "I'm right here," he murmured. And then their world softened. The lights dimmed. Their silhouettes intertwined in the warm glow of the room, and the night drew its curtain over them. fade to black. A soft glow filtered through the curtains. Olivia woke first. For a moment she lay still, letting the warmth of morning wash over her. Then she felt the weight of Alvaro's arm draped over her waist, his hand resting over hers. She turned slightly, looking at him. He was still asleep. He looked different like this, less intimidating, less guarded, almost peaceful. She studied the look of vulnerability on his face, the kind only love, danger, and sleepless nights could carve into a man. Alvaro stirred, eyes opening slowly. His gaze softened the second he saw her. "Good morning." "Good morning," she whispered. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "You slept well?" "I did." She hesitated. Then, "And you?" He smiled faintly. "Better than I have in years." Olivia felt heat bloom in her cheeks, something she hadn't felt in a long time. She wasn't used to waking up beside someone who made her feel safe. She wasn't used to waking up with her heart full. She wasn't used to waking up, wanting someone to stay. But she wanted this. She wanted him. She sat up slowly, pulling the sheets around her, her body warm and relaxed in ways she hadn't experienced in years. Alvaro watched her with quiet admiration. "You're thinking," he said softly. Olivia gave a small nod. "I'm thinking, I don't want to go back to how things were." His heart clenched. "Neither do I." They shared a quiet smile, tender, genuine. But the warmth of the moment was pierced by a sudden knock on the bedroom door. A guard's voice called out urgently, "Sir, we have a situation." Alvaro and Olivia exchanged a sharp look. Peace was over for now. They dressed quickly, Olivia's hands shaking slightly, though she hid it well. The closeness of the night still lingered between them, but danger always had a way of intruding at the worst possible time. Alvaro opened the door. The guard bowed his head. "Sir, forgive the interruption. But Soren, he's requested a private meeting." Olivia's pulse quickened. "For what reason?" "He said it concerns the future of the family." Alvaro's jaw clenched. "Of course he did." The guard hesitated. "There's more. He insisted the meeting take place without security present." Olivia stepped forward. "No, absolutely not." Alvaro glanced at her, a small flicker of warmth in his eyes. He loved that she spoke with authority. "Olivia's right," he said. "Soren doesn't get private meetings." The guard swallowed. "He said you would want to hear what he has to say, and he left this." He handed over a small envelope. Olivia's stomach turned. Alvaro tore the envelope open, pulling out a single slip of paper. A handwritten message. "You think you won last night, but you're losing more than you realize. Meet me at the south courtyard. Alone." Olivia felt a ripple of dread move through her. "He knows," she whispered. Alvaro frowned. "Knows what?" "That we're closer now. He can sense it, and that makes me an even bigger target." Alvaro took her hands firmly. "Nothing is going to happen to you." But Olivia could see the fear flicker behind his eyes. Not fear for himself, fear of losing her, because one night had changed everything. As Alvaro prepared to confront Soren again, Olivia dressed in a tailored dark dress, practical, elegant, and symbolically strong. She stood by the door, watching as Alvaro placed a gun at his holster. "Be careful," she said. He stepped toward her, taking her face gently in his hands. "I don't plan to give him anything." Olivia exhaled slowly. "Just promise me you won't let him provoke you into making a mistake." Alvaro brushed his thumb along her cheek. "I promise." She held his gaze for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she leaned up and pressed a soft kiss to his lips, a tender contrast to last night's passion. "For luck," she whispered. Alvaro closed his eyes briefly, as if absorbing the strength she offered. Then he walked to the door. But before he left, he looked back at her. "Stay where it's safe, please." Olivia nodded, but the fire in her eyes said she wasn't going to sit idle. Not if Alvaro was in danger, not anymore. The south courtyard was usually peaceful, a place of stone fountains, trimmed hedges, and marble statues imported from Europe. Tonight, however, the beauty of the place felt misplaced. The air was still, too still. Even the fountains sounded muted, as if the courtyard itself was holding its breath. Alvaro approached slowly, every sense sharpened. Soren stood near the center fountain, hands tucked into the pockets of his coat. He looked as if he were waiting for a casual conversation with an old friend instead of a confrontation with the brother he'd tried to assassinate through his wife. Alvaro stopped several feet away. "You asked for a meeting," he said coldly. "I'm here. Talk." Soren smiled, a slow, poisonous smile. "Good morning to you too, brother." Alvaro didn't move. He didn't blink. He didn't indulge Soren's theatrics. Soren clicked his tongue. "You've changed, Alvaro. A few weeks ago you were more reasonable. What do you want?" Soren's smile widened. "Simple. I want what should have been mine from the beginning." "Father chose me," Alvaro replied. "No," Soren said with a scoff. "Father chose your marriage. It's not the same thing." Alvaro's eyes narrowed. Soren stepped forward just slightly, his voice dropping to a low, venomous murmur. "You've grown soft, brother. The mighty heir of the Moretti Empire, losing himself over a woman." Alvaro's jaw tightened. "Call her a woman again, and we end this conversation differently." Soren laughed. "You're predictable, and that is why you are easy to destroy." Alvaro took one measured step forward. "Try." Soren's smile disappeared. "You think saving her life last night was some kind of victory?" Soren asked, pacing in a slow arc. "You think protecting your arranged bride gives you strength?" He turned sharply. "No, it makes you weak. In love, men make mistakes. They hesitate. They break." Alvaro's voice was cold. "And in obsession, men become reckless." Soren's eye twitched, the first crack in his composure. Alvaro continued, "You don't want the throne because it's yours. You want it because you hate the fact that someone is standing where you believe you should be. You're not fighting for power. You're fighting your own insignificance." Soren's smirk shattered entirely. "You think I care about being insignificant?" he snapped. "You do," Alvaro said calmly. "And you always have." Soren clenched his teeth so hard, his jaw trembled. The truth had struck deep. But what he said next sent a ripple of dread through the air. "I know about the two of you." Alvaro's body froze. "What?" Soren stepped closer. "Your wife. In your bed. Last night." Alvaro's eyes darkened with immediate danger. "How did you—" Soren raised a brow. "You think I don't have eyes inside my own home? You think this mansion watches only for outside threats?" A cold shiver ran down Alvaro's spine. Olivia, her safety, their intimacy. He should have known Soren would use anything to get under his skin. Soren's lips curled. "You think loving her gives you strength, but love is the easiest thing to destroy." Alvaro moved before he even realized. His fist grabbed Soren by the collar and slammed him back against the marble statue behind him. Soren choked slightly, laughing through it. "There he is," he whispered. "The real Alvaro." Alvaro's voice was a low growl. "Touch anyone I care about again, and I will end you." Soren's expression twisted, not with fear, but satisfaction. "You do care," Soren breathed. "Oh, this is perfect." Alvaro stepped back sharply, unwilling to give him another second of satisfaction. The meeting was over, but the damage was done. Soren now knew exactly where to strike. While the brothers argued in the courtyard, Olivia stood inside the west wing, staring through the narrow balcony doors overlooking the garden. Something inside her told her the conversation wasn't just dangerous, it was a trigger point, a turning moment where either peace would finally anchor, or war would swallow them whole. She couldn't stand idle. Not anymore. Not after last night. Not after allowing herself to love him, even if she hadn't spoken the words aloud yet. So Olivia walked out of the suite and down the hallway, her steps firm, determined. A guard moved to block her. "Ma'am," Mr. Moretti said. "No one stops me," Olivia said calmly. The guard faltered. Her eyes, steel-focused calm, made the man step aside without another word. She reached the staircase leading down toward the south courtyard, but halfway there she heard voices echoing from the garden. Soren's voice, sharp, mocking, cruel, and Alvaro's, low, controlled, filled with fury she had never heard from him before. She descended the last step silently, staying behind the hedges, listening. "Love makes men weak," Soren said, his voice cutting the air. Olivia froze. He knew. About last night, about their emotional shift. She slowly edged around the hedge until she could see them both. Alvaro had Soren pinned to a statue at that moment, his fist gripping Soren's collar, anger etched across his face. Soren looked far too pleased. Olivia quickly stepped out. "Enough." Her voice was firm, ringing through the courtyard like a blade. Alvaro released his grip instantly and turned to face her, shock mixed with relief flooding his expression. Soren straightened his clothes, smirking. Olivia walked toward them with slow, controlled steps. "Soren," she said calmly, "is this what you needed? To feel in control again? Because from where I'm standing, you look desperate." Soren's smugness cracked. Olivia held his gaze without fear. "You're right about one thing," she continued. "I don't weaken Alvaro. But you're weak. Because you've confused fear with power." Soren's eyes darkened, but Olivia didn't stop. "You're trying to destroy a marriage that wasn't even romantic at first. But here we are, stronger than you expected." Soren's rage simmered. He wasn't used to being challenged by a woman who didn't flinch. Olivia stepped closer, close enough for her words to slice deeply. "You want a war? You want chaos? Then understand this first. I'm not afraid of you, and that terrifies you." For the first time since this conflict began, Soren looked shaken. He didn't expect her bravery. He didn't expect her voice. He didn't expect her strength. And, most of all, he didn't expect that Olivia would not be broken. Alvaro watched in stunned silence as Olivia faced down his brother, the man who had tried to kill her, without a flicker of fear. Something swelled inside him. Admiration. Fierce, overwhelming admiration. And something deeper. He had always known she was strong. But this was a different kind of strength. A queen's strength. A leader's strength. A partner's strength. Soren sneered and pushed past them both. "This isn't over," he muttered darkly. "No," Olivia replied. "It's only beginning." Soren froze in mid-step, startled by her audacity, then stormed away. Alvaro turned to her immediately. "Why did you come down here?" he asked softly, taking her hands. "Because you're not fighting him alone," she said. Alvaro lifted her hands to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently. "You amaze me," he whispered. Olivia felt warmth spread through her chest. Her voice softened. "I'm standing with you, Alvaro, no matter what comes next." He leaned his forehead against hers, breathing her in, cherishing her courage. In that moment, he realized something with absolute clarity. This woman would become the greatest love of his life, and he was prepared to wage war for her. The estate was quieter that afternoon. Too quiet. Olivia felt it the moment she stepped back into the main hall after speaking with Alvaro. Her instincts, the ones sharpened by growing up under a powerful Mafia family, screamed that something was wrong. She moved through the hallway slowly, observing the unusual silence, the missing guards, the slight shift in the air that comes right before danger strikes. She tightened her grip on her phone, ready to call Alvaro if needed. But danger didn't give her the chance. Olivia turned a corner near the east staircase and froze. A man stood there. Not a guard, not a staff member, a stranger. His clothes were too plain, his stance too alert, his eyes, cold, calculating, locked immediately onto hers. And she realized this wasn't just an intruder, this was a killer, one sent specifically for her. He stepped toward her. Olivia didn't run. She backed away slowly, keeping distance, keeping her face unreadable. Her voice remained calm. "You're in the wrong wing." The man didn't speak. His hand slid toward his jacket. She reacted instantly, spinning and running toward the nearest room. She slammed the door, twisted the lock, and pressed herself against the wall as the footsteps approached. A heartbeat later, bang! The door shuddered from the impact. The lock cracked. Olivia moved quickly, searching the room, a guest study with sharp eyes. A fireplace poker, heavy, metal, long enough to swing. She grabbed it, her hands steady. Bang! The killer struck the door again. The frame splintered. Olivia's breath was shallow, not out of fear but calculation. She knew she couldn't outrun a trained assassin, but she could outsmart him. The final strike sent the door crashing inward. The man stepped inside, gun raised. But Olivia was gone. She had moved to the side of the doorway, pressed against the wall, invisible from where he entered. He scanned the empty room, silent, confused. Then Olivia moved. She swung the poker with all the force she had. Thud! The weapon crashed into his arm, knocking the gun from his grip. The metal hit the floor and slid across the room. He snarled, lunging toward her. Olivia swung again, this time hitting his shoulder and staggering him. But the man recovered quickly, grabbing her wrist and slamming her against the wall. Pain shot through her back, but she didn't scream. She twisted, using her knee to strike his thigh. He grunted and lost his grip for a second. Olivia grabbed the fallen gun, but the assassin caught her by the wrist before she could aim. The two of them crashed to the ground, fighting for control of the weapon. Olivia's elbow struck his jaw. He growled, tightening his grip. He shoved her against the ground and pinned her beneath him. For the first time, Olivia's breath hitched. She wasn't afraid to die, but she wasn't done living. She wasn't done loving. Not now. Not after finally letting Alvaro in. The killer lifted a knife from his boot. Olivia stared up at him, defiant to the last second. Then, a gunshot exploded through the room. The assassin collapsed beside her, dead. Olivia's chest heaved as she scrambled backward, her heartbeat racing like thunder. Alvaro stood in the doorway, gun trembling in his hand, eyes burning with terror, fury, relief, all twisted together. He dropped the weapon instantly and rushed to her. Olivia, God, Olivia, talk to me. He knelt beside her, hands moving frantically over her arms, her face, her shoulders, checking for injuries. She reached up and touched his cheek with shaking fingers. "I'm okay," she whispered. "You're not," he breathed, voice cracking. "You were almost... I almost..." He couldn't finish the sentence. His forehead pressed against hers, their breaths colliding in trembling waves. "Alvaro." She breathed. His hands cupped her face tightly, almost too tightly, but he couldn't let go. Not yet. Not after almost losing her a second time. His voice broke completely. "I thought I was going to walk in and find you gone." Olivia's eyes softened. "I'm right here." He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could feel the tremor in his muscles. Her voice softened. "I fought him." Alvaro froze. "You... what?" "I didn't run. I wasn't helpless." Alvaro leaned back just enough to look into her eyes, and what he saw there made his breath stop. Not fear, not pain, but strength. "You're unbelievable," he whispered. She touched his chest lightly. "It's not bravery, it's survival. And I'm not letting Soren win." Her voice steadied, her chin lifting. "I'm not going to be a victim, Alvaro. Not in my own home. Not in this family." His eyes burned with admiration so deep it made his chest ache. "You're everything," he whispered. Olivia swallowed. "You're everything to me, too." Alvaro closed his eyes and pressed a trembling kiss to her forehead. Moments later, the guards arrived and dragged in another intruder, left unconscious outside the hallway. Alvaro stood in front of him, breathing hard, eyes full of lethal intent. "Who sent you?" he demanded. The man stayed silent. Alvaro's jaw tightened. "I'll ask one more time." Still silence. But Olivia stepped forward calmly. "Let me talk to him." Alvaro blinked, surprised. "Olivia, he's dangerous." "So am I," she said calmly. Alvaro stepped aside, trusting her completely. Olivia crouched in front of the intruder, her expression unreadable. "You came to kill me," she said. "Fine. Then answer me one thing before Alvaro decides whether you live another minute." The man hesitated, her calmness shaking him more than violence could. Who sent you? She repeated softly. He swallowed. Soren, he muttered. Alvaro's fists clenched instantly. Olivia rose slowly. Thank you. Then she turned to Alvaro. We can't ignore it anymore, she said. This isn't jealousy. This isn't anger. This is a war he's determined to start. Alvaro stepped toward her, his voice low. Then I'll end it. Olivia touched his arm. No, we will end it. She met his eyes, fierce, resolute, unshaken. He realized something then. Not only was Olivia strong, she was becoming his equal, his partner, his reason, his anchor, his heart. Alvaro gave new orders instantly. Double security. Lock down all entry points. Arm the guards. Bring every Moretti loyalist to the estate. Hunt down every man connected to Soren. No one moves without clearance. Olivia at his side, always. The estate transformed from calm elegance to strategic fortress in minutes. But the real storm was brewing inside Alvaro. He turned back to Olivia, voice trembling with the weight of everything he felt. I can't lose you, he whispered. She cupped his face gently. You won't. He kissed her forehead again, not passionate, but protective. A seal of devotion, a promise. Then, a guard rushed in. Sir, we found something. In the east wing. A note. Alvaro took it, unfolded it. Read it. Froze. Olivia stepped closer. What does it say? He looked at her, expression darkening into something she had never seen before. Pure, unfiltered wrath. He handed her the note. It read, Round 2 was only a warning. The last shot will be for the heart. Olivia's blood ran cold. Alvaro took her hand, holding it so tight she felt his pulse racing through his grip. This ends tonight, he said. But Olivia shook her head gently. No, this begins tonight. Their eyes met. Two souls now tied not just by marriage, not just by duty, not just by passion, but by survival, and together they stepped into the storm. The Moretti estate was no longer a home. It had shifted, transformed, into a fortress bracing for war. Guards lined the corridors. Security cameras turned like alert eyes. Every window had been reinforced, every hidden passage monitored. But despite the increased security, danger felt closer than ever. Olivia stood in the grand study with Alvaro and the inner circle of loyalists, men Alvaro trusted with his life. A thick map stretched across the table. Dots, markers, and coded notes covered the surface. Alvaro leaned over the table, jaw tight, tapping one location repeatedly. Soren's private safe house. 2 attacks in less than 24 hours, Alvaro said, voice steady but simmering with fury. He's not hiding his intent anymore. Marco, his most trusted strategist, spoke. Sir, Soren's not sloppy. If he left clues, it's because he wanted you to find them. Olivia's eyes sharpened. He's provoking you. Alvaro looked up at her. Yes, he wants you emotional. Yes. He wants you to come to him unprepared. Yes. She stepped closer, her voice low but confident. Then don't give him what he wants. Alvaro felt a stab of pride at her composure. Even after surviving another assassination attempt, she was thinking clearly, sharper than half the men in the room. He exhaled. I'm not attacking the safe house. Marco blinked. You're not? No, Alvaro said. It's a trap. Olivia gave a small nod. Soren is trying to lure you out of the estate. Alvaro met her gaze. He's not after me anymore. He's after you. The room grew colder. Olivia swallowed softly, not in fear, but understanding. He knows hurting you hurts me, Alvaro said. Silence settled, heavy, unbearable. But Olivia spoke up with surprising calm. Then we stop letting him control the board. Alvaro blinked, intrigued. What do you have in mind? Olivia stepped to the map, tracing her finger along a different route, one the men hadn't touched. We know Soren anticipates your moves. He's predicting your strategy because you're predictable to him. And you're not, Marco muttered, half impressed. Olivia continued. He thinks you'll come for him. He expects revenge. He expects rage. Her eyes lifted. So let's give him something he isn't expecting. Alvaro stepped closer, breath warm near her ear. What's that? Olivia met his gaze, her expression unwavering. Me. The room erupted in protest. Absolutely not. Impossible. He'll kill you. Alvaro held up a hand, silencing them all. Then he turned to her fully. No, he said quietly. Olivia, I will never use you as bait. Her voice didn't waver. I'm not bait. She held his gaze. I'm the variable he can't calculate. He stared at her, seeing fire, strategy, courage. Every part of her radiated strength. She wasn't suggesting recklessness. She was suggesting control, power, a move only someone who understood Soren's psychology could make. We won't put you in danger, Alvaro insisted. Olivia stepped closer. I'm already in danger. She inhaled slowly. He's attacking because he thinks I'm your weakness. So show him I'm your strength. The room froze. Alvaro stared at her for a long moment, realizing she was right. Her courage wasn't reckless. It was calculated. It was smart. It was powerful. It was everything Soren didn't expect. His voice softened. You amaze me, he said. Olivia smiled, gently placing a hand over his heart. And we will end this, together. Later that night, as plans were being finalized, a guard approached Marco quietly. Sir, we found a breach. Marco stiffened. What kind of breach? The guard looked pale. One of ours. Someone's feeding Soren information. Marco's heart dropped. Who? The guard hesitated, trembling. I think you should see this. He handed Marco a security tablet. Marco tapped the screen, and a video feed loaded from a camera hidden in the west corridor. The footage showed a guard, one of their guards, sneaking into a supply room, speaking quietly on a burner phone. It's done, the traitor whispered. They'll move Olivia tomorrow. Alone. Marco's blood ran cold. Good. Make sure she isn't heavily protected, the voice on the other end said. That voice. Marco recognized it instantly. Soren. The traitor continued. What about the brother? Leave him distracted. I don't need him dead yet, only devastated. The line ended. Marco didn't wait. He sprinted toward Alvaro's suite. Alvaro and Olivia sat together in the quiet of their private parlor. Olivia leaned back on the sofa, wrapped in a soft cashmere blanket, while Alvaro sat beside her, gently bandaging the small bruise on her wrist from the earlier fight. He worked silently, hands gentle, face deeply focused. You're doing that very carefully, Olivia teased softly. I'm trying not to think about the fact that someone touched you, he said. Her gaze warmed. Then the door flew open. Sir, Marco gasped. We have a problem. Alvaro stood instantly, protective instinct rising like fire. What happened? Marco held up the tablet. We found the leak. Olivia stood beside Alvaro. Marco played the footage. Alvaro went still, like a beast moments before attack. Olivia felt her stomach tighten. He's already setting up the next attempt, Marco said. And this time, it's not an attack. It's a trap. Alvaro clenched his fists. He wants her isolated. He wants her taken, Marco corrected. Alive. Olivia's breath hitched. Alvaro turned to her immediately. His voice was a low, trembling warning. You're not leaving my sight. But Olivia shook her head. Alvaro. No, he snapped. You're not stepping outside without 20 guards. She reached for him, placing her hands gently on his face. Listen to me. He froze. Her touch always stopped him. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I'm not letting Soren chase me like prey. Her voice was steady, strong, royal. We take control of this, and we finish it. Alvaro stared into her eyes, seeing her determination, her strength, her unwavering love. She continued softly, You once said, I gave you purpose. Let me give us victory. Alvaro's throat tightened. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against hers. You're everything to me, he whispered. "I can't lose you." "You won't," she whispered back. Then, something shifted in his eyes. Resolve. Acceptance. A vow. "We're doing this," he said quietly, "but we're doing it my way." Olivia nodded. Together, the next morning came with a heavy haze. The sky was overcast, the air thick, almost storm-like. It felt like the world knew what was coming. Olivia dressed in dark clothing, simple but elegant. Alvaro insisted she wear a discreet but bullet-resistant vest beneath her blouse. She didn't argue. Marco and the loyalists moved like shadows throughout the estate, preparing the counter-strategy. The traitor guard was captured quietly, interrogated, secured, and removed without causing panic. And finally, the plan was set. Olivia would leave the estate. Alvaro would stay behind. Their forces would appear divided. But hidden in the shadows, dozens of trained Moretti guards, snipers, strategists, and Alvaro himself would be with her at every turn. Soren would believe she was alone, but she would be surrounded by an invisible army, and at the center of it all, Alvaro, watching every step she took. Olivia stepped into the armored car, breath steady. Alvaro stood beside the open door, holding it for her, but his eyes were filled with quiet torment. "You stay in the center seat," he said. "2 guards on your left, 2 on your right. Bulletproof shields in front. Marco's car behind you, mine behind his." Olivia touched his wrist gently. "We're ready." He leaned in, brushing his lips against her forehead, lingering, breathing her in. "You come back to me," he whispered. "I will," she promised. He pulled back slightly, his voice lower. "And when this is over, you and I will finally live without fear between us." Olivia smiled softly. "That sounds like something worth fighting for." He exhaled shakily. "It's everything." Then he closed the door and signaled the convoy. The cars rolled forward, through the estate gates, onto the long road, into the trap, and somewhere, unseen, Soren was waiting. The convoy moved along the outer highway, a route chosen specifically because Soren believed Olivia would be lightly guarded. The cars were heavily tinted and impossibly quiet. The world outside seemed to blur by, rows of abandoned farmlands, stretches of forest, the occasional old warehouse. Olivia sat in the center seat exactly as instructed, her hands folded, her breathing deliberately even. But inside, her heart beat like a war drum. To anyone looking in, she was calm, elegant, composed. But she wasn't just waiting. She was listening, for the silence, for the shift, for the danger she knew was coming. Alvaro's voice echoed in her mind. "You don't leave my sight." She knew he was right behind them, his car hidden in the shadows of the convoy. Even with so many guards around her, she felt the echo of his presence strongest of all. And that alone gave her strength. The forest thickened on both sides of the road. The first guard tensed. The second glanced at his communicator. The third lifted his hand subtly toward the holster beneath his jacket. Something was wrong. Olivia felt it before anyone said a word. The air changed, thickened, tightened, like the entire world was holding its breath. She whispered, "Get ready." The guard beside her nodded sharply. Then, a small glint of metal flashed between the trees. Olivia's eyes widened. Down. Boom! An explosion tore through the front car. Flames shot high. Shrapnel blasted across the road. The force made Olivia's vehicle lurch violently sideways, but the bulletproof frame held. The guards threw themselves over her, shielding her body. "Ma'am, stay low." Shots incoming. Contact. Left side. A hail of gunfire erupted from both sides of the forest. Bullets slammed against the armored windows like a metal rainstorm. The rear guard shouted into the radio, "Where the hell is the secondary squad?" The radio crackled. Voice distorted, then cut. Signal jammed. They'd planned it perfectly. Olivia gritted her teeth. Soren had not sent amateurs this time. He'd sent an army. "Move! Move!" A guard roared. The convoy swerved, trying to break through the ambush, but boom! A second explosion detonated behind them. A car was thrown into the ditch, flames engulfing it instantly. Olivia's blood ran cold. "Soren isn't waiting to capture me," she whispered. The guard beside her swallowed hard. "What do you mean? This isn't a kidnapping ambush." Her voice sharpened. "This is an extermination." Alvaro's car skidded to a stop behind the wreckage. The driver yelled, "Sir, stay in the vehicle." But Alvaro was already out, gun drawn, expression carved from pure, deadly fury. He saw Olivia's car under siege, surrounded by masked attackers firing relentlessly. A sound left him, low, guttural, primal, the sound of a man inches from losing the person he loves. Marco's voice crackled in the earpiece. "Alvaro, wait for backup." No. He strode forward like a storm incarnate. Bullets ricocheted off nearby metal, but he didn't flinch. He aimed, fired, took down 2 attackers instantly. A sniper aimed at Olivia's window. Alvaro's heart stopped. He fired. First, the sniper dropped from his perch. "Push forward," Alvaro roared. Everyone on Olivia's car. Moretti forces surged behind him, forming a protective line as they advanced. Gunfire exploded through the forest. Smoke clouded the air. But nothing could stop him now. He moved toward Olivia's vehicle like a man possessed. Olivia sat upright now, despite the bullets hitting the car from every angle. The guards were losing ground. They wouldn't hold forever. One guard shouted, "Ma'am, when this door opens, run behind the shields." Olivia gripped his arm. "No," she said. "We stay together." "But—" "No." The guard swallowed, nodding in respect. And then, a shadow moved through the smoke outside. The guards tensed. The door ripped open, and Alvaro appeared. His chest heaved. His clothes were covered in soot and dust. His eyes were blazing with terror and relief. Olivia, she didn't wait another second. She threw herself forward, into his arms. He caught her instantly, pulling her into a fierce embrace, despite the chaos erupting around them. "I'm here," he breathed against her hair. "I'm here. I've got you." She clung to him, her voice shaking. "I knew you would come." He pulled back just enough to cup her face. "You're safe," he whispered. "I won't let anyone touch you. Not today, not ever." But Olivia's eyes widened suddenly. "Alvaro, behind you." He spun. Too late. A masked man charged from the smoke, knife raised. But Olivia moved first. She grabbed the fallen pistol from a guard, aimed with steady hands, and pulled the trigger. Bang! The attacker collapsed. Alvaro turned back to Olivia slowly. His chest rose and fell in disbelief. "You saved my life," he breathed. Olivia's expression hardened with quiet fire. "We save each other." There was no time for anything more. A larger explosion rocked the road. Olivia flinched. Alvaro shielded her with his body, and that's when they heard the sound. A voice, amplified, mocking, cold. Soren, from hidden speakers somewhere in the trees. How touching! Alvaro's eyes sharpened like blades. Soren continued, "I gave you 2 chances to hand her over. Now, you've left me no choice." Olivia's heart sank. Alvaro tightened his grip around her. "Don't you dare touch her," he growled. Soren laughed, a chilling, unhinged sound. "Touch her? Alvaro. I'm going to burn everything you care about to the ground." The forest lit up. Dozens of men emerged from the smoke. Not 10, not 20, at least 40, all armed, all aiming for Olivia. Alvaro pulled her close, whispering urgently into her ear, "When I tell you to run, you run to Marco's car. Don't look back." "No," Olivia whispered fiercely. "We stay together." "Olivia." "No." Her voice trembled, but with fury, not fear. "I'm not losing you." Their foreheads touched for a heartbeat. Then, Alvaro turned, raising his weapon. And Olivia did the same, side by side, together, ready for the war Soren had brought to their doorstep. The forest erupted into chaos. Gunfire cracked from every direction. Bullets slashed through the air. Smoke curled upward in thick black clouds. The sound of explosions echoed off the trees like thunder rolling from the heavens. But in the middle of it all, Alvaro stood in front of Olivia. Olivia stood beside Alvaro, and nothing, not fear, not doubt, not death, could separate them, not anymore. Soren's army poured from the trees, not assassins, not lone attackers, but a coordinated force. Tactical gear, automatic rifles, explosive packs. This wasn't a kidnapping squad. This was a war unit. Olivia whispered, "He's been planning this for months." Alvaro's voice was low, steady. "He won't win." Bullets rained down again. "Move," Alvaro shouted to his men. Shields around Olivia, but Olivia grabbed his arm. "No," she said fiercely. "I'm not hiding behind shields while you fight for me. Olivia, we fight together." There was no time to argue. 3 attackers broke through the left flank. Alvaro fired. 2 dropped. The 3rd charged Olivia. She pivoted, dropped low, grabbed a fallen guard's baton, and swung hard. Crack! The man collapsed, unconscious. Alvaro looked at her, stunned, breathless, awed. "You were made for this," he whispered. "No," she said. "I was made for you." And he loved her more in that instant than he had ever loved anything in his life. A sharp crack split the air. A single gunshot, different, heavier, echoed from somewhere deeper in the woods. Alvaro grabbed Olivia. "That wasn't aimed at us," she whispered. "No," Alvaro said. A radio crackled. "Sir," Marco yelled, "Soren's on the ridge above you. He has a long-range rifle." Alvaro cursed under his breath. He knew exactly what this meant. Soren wasn't attacking randomly anymore. He was aiming for one shot, one kill, one life that would destroy Alvaro more than any empire ever could. Olivia's. Alvaro grabbed her face, eyes wild with urgency. "Stay behind me, no matter what." Olivia shook her head immediately. "No, Alvaro, you promised me," he said. "You stay alive. For us." Her eyes brimmed, but she nodded. A promise made at the edge of life and death. The forest became a battlefield. Moretti forces surrounded Olivia and Alvaro, firing from behind trees, cars and shield rigs. Soren's men advanced with brutal precision. Alvaro moved like a man possessed, firing, reloading, shielding Olivia with his body, pushing her behind armored plating when explosions rocked the ground. Olivia stayed close, never more than inches from him, using a pistol when needed. Directing guards with sharp instincts inherited from her Mafia upbringing. At one point, a grenade rolled near them. Olivia's eyes widened. Alvaro pushed her down, shielding her body with his. Boom! The shockwave blasted dirt and debris into the air. Olivia coughed, pushing up on her elbows. "Alvaro." He lifted his head. "I'm fine. I'm fine. Are you hurt?" "No." He exhaled in relief. Then Marco's voice called out, "Soren of Fun's moving. West Ridge. He's trying to flank you." Alvaro's eyes sharpened. "This ends now." Alvaro grabbed Olivia's hand and pulled her into a sprint toward the West Ridge, weaving between fallen trees, smoke and gunfire. "Stay behind me," he shouted. Olivia did, but she stayed close, her hand gripping his coat, refusing to let him go ahead alone. The ridge was steep, covered in roots and dirt. They climbed fast, urgency driving their legs. When they reached the top, Soren stood waiting, his rifle aimed, right at Olivia. Alvaro roared. "No!" He lunged, shoving Olivia aside. Bang! The bullet fired. Olivia screamed, but the shot missed her by inches, hitting a stone behind her. Soren cursed. Alvaro charged forward, fury blazing in every line of his body. He slammed Soren onto the ground. The rifle skittered across the dirt. The two brothers rolled, punching, grabbing, fighting with the brutal desperation of men with everything at stake. Soren snarled, "You ruined our family. You tried to kill my wife. She was never meant to be yours. She is everything to me. Soren slammed his elbow into Alvaro's jaw. Alvaro countered with a brutal blow to the ribs. But just as Alvaro gained the upper hand, Soren pulled a dagger from his boot. He swung, straight for Alvaro's throat. Olivia screamed. Alvaro. Alvaro blocked the blade with his forearm, the steel slicing his skin. Blood splattered. Soren grinned. You're weak because you love her. No, Alvaro growled. I'm strong because she loves me. He ripped the dagger from Soren's hand and flung it aside. But Soren wasn't done. He lunged. Not at Alvaro. At Olivia. Knifeless, weaponless, but murderous. Olivia froze for one heartbeat. Then she moved. Faster than instinct. Faster than fear. She grabbed the fallen rifle from the ground, swung it hard like a club. Crack! The butt of the rifle struck Soren right across the skull. He collapsed to the dirt, stunned, groaning, disarmed. Alvaro spun toward Olivia, and what he saw made his breath leave him entirely. She stood there, breathing hard, hands trembling, weapon raised. Strong, fearless, alive. Are you insane? He gasped, grabbing her shoulders. You could have been, but I wasn't, she whispered, because you taught me how to survive. He pulled her into his arms, shaking, breathless with relief. I can't lose you, he whispered into her hair. I can't, you won't, she said softly. Soren groaned, rolling onto his back, dazed and bleeding. Alvaro rose slowly, dragging Olivia behind him protectively. He pointed a gun at his brother. Soren laughed weakly. Kill me, he spat. Do it. Be the monster you've always been. Alvaro lifted the weapon, but Olivia placed her hand gently on his arm. He froze. She stepped forward, standing between Alvaro and Soren. Enough, she said quietly. This ends today, not with murder, but with justice. Alvaro's jaw clenched. He wanted to end Soren. He wanted to remove every threat to Olivia. But Olivia's eyes, her voice, her compassion even toward the man who tried to destroy her. He lowered the gun. Soren stared at her, stunned. You're weak, he hissed. No, Olivia replied. I'm stronger than you'll ever be. Alvaro signaled his men. Take him. The guards rushed forward, shackling Soren, dragging him down the ridge. The war was over. The smoke cleared. The gunfire faded. The convoy was secured. Survivors tended to the wounded. The forest fell silent again. Olivia sat on the back bumper of a bulletproof SUV, breathing slowly, hands shaking with delayed adrenaline. Alvaro crouched in front of her, gently wiping the blood from her cheek, not hers, but from the fight. You saved my life, he whispered. You saved mine, she whispered back. We saved each other. He smiled softly, a rare, raw expression. Yes, he lifted her hand, kissing her palm tenderly. I don't deserve you, he murmured. Yes, she said, cupping his face. You do. And then, with no hesitation, no fear, no walls, she kissed him, not with passion or heat this time, but with relief, with love, with everything they had survived together. It wasn't a desperate kiss. It was a promise. When they pulled apart, Alvaro rested his forehead against hers. Come home with me, he whispered. I am home, she replied. His breath caught. And then, for the first time, Alvaro said the words he'd been holding back since the moment he saw her step out of the car on their wedding day. I love you, Olivia. She smiled, tears filling her eyes. I love you too. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as if he'd finally found peace in a world built on violence. And in that wrecked forest clearing, among flames and ashes, with danger finally behind them, they knew they had survived something that would bind them forever. The Moretti estate rebuilt itself over the next months, stronger, safer, fortified by unity and loyalty. Soren was imprisoned, stripped of influence and control. The families honored Olivia not just as the wife of the heir, but as the woman who ended the war with her courage. And Alvaro? He loved her fiercely. He kissed her every morning, as if he were afraid to blink and find her gone. He held her every night with the devotion of a man who had fought the world to keep her safe. And people whispered through the halls, "The Moretti Empire is unbreakable now." Because Olivia wasn't just Alvaro's arranged wife anymore. She had become his strength, his queen, his peace, his love. And, together, they ruled with power, with loyalty, with justice, and with hearts that survived fire. If you've stayed with me till this moment, thank you. Stories like this remind us that even in the darkest battles, love, loyalty, and courage can turn the tide. Before you go, please take a moment to like this video. It helps more people find our stories. Share it with someone who loves powerful storytelling. And comment below, do you think Olivia and Alvaro's bond made them stronger or more vulnerable? I want to hear your thoughts. Most importantly, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story from Mr. Donovan Stories. Until next time, may your path be protected, may your heart be brave, and may good fortune follow you wherever you go.